Against all the evil that hell can conjure, all the wickedness that mankind can produce, we will send unto them only you.
Doom 2016 was such a step away from the modern shooter formulas in which we've come to know after Halo took the scene in 2001. FPS design changed, games were focused on a 2-weapon limit, regenerating health, boring guns, uninteresting level design, and realism. It seemed Doom was lost in time until recently, with the overabundance of recycled trash accumulating in piles. Doom was a relic of the past, but after id scrapped the idea of a modern Doom game, they decided to return to their roots. They played the original Doom and understood its design philosophies. Doom 2016 was supposed to be a return to Doom in the original FPS formula, and after many years of Doom 2016, games have released harkening back to the original formula of FPS games. Fast movement, brutal gameplay, open level design, and a vast variety of enemies and weapons. Doom 2016 was a major success, selling about 4.3 million copies worldwide on all platforms, making about $143 million success. Now that Bethesda was confident on letting id continue with making Doom games, work began making a sequel, and the new engine the sequel would take place on. In 2018, Doom Eternal was revealed to the general public. Excitement grew, and there I sat, watching the stream for QuakeCon. I couldn't believe it. One of my favorite, if not my favorite game was getting a sequel. The game was set to release in late 2019. Watching the QuakeCon gameplay showcases over and over again for those few months, I was ready to play the game. The game was set just to release 3 days after my birthday, but Bethesda announced that Doom Eternal would be delayed until March. Disappointment came to me, but in the end I was glad they delayed the game, because the game would have probably launched in an abysmal state. 2020 has already been a rough year. Threats of World War III and now the coronavirus. Doom Eternal might be the best thing of 2020. Maybe even the only good thing in 2020. I was ready, man. I pre-ordered the game, and after watching several people get ready for the game, like my main man G-Man Lives, a gentleman and a great YouTuber, you guys should check him out, he's really good, link in the description. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. After playing Doom Eternal a few times through, it's actually kind of sad, because the future is looking a little bleak for current FPS games. People are going to have to step it up a little if they want to outclass Doom Eternal. FPS games are evolving, and I think Doom Eternal is going to be that big evolutionary push the industry needs. This game has also inspired me to make my own push with my YouTube channel as well, make longer and more in-depth videos. Doom Eternal is a fantastic game. I would have spent more money on this game willingly. It's just that good. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Skeptical Rowan, and this is Doom Eternal. John Carmack's quote has kind of been lost in time because story in video games has evolved to large standards. Story in games back then wasn't utilized due to limitations, and that's why Half-Life was a significant push forward, because that game showed the world that video games could tell stories in different ways that no other medium could do. With its many NPCs scattered throughout Black Mesa, it was truly a way to connect with a world like no other. Modern games tell stories that barely have anything left up to the imagination, making every experience forgettable and not very exciting to experience numerous times, or just fall into plain awful ways of storytelling. But Doom has never been about the story, but Doom Eternal has a narrative going throughout the campaign. Doom 2016 had a narrative that was more or less pushed to the side and forgotten about by the player. But Doom Eternal now has a more involved story, complete with more characters, cinematic cutscenes, and more lore behind everything. But unlike the bland expository dialogue that plagues modern games like Halo 5, Doom Eternal decides to show you things through the environment, and for the most part it works really well. It gives you more context for what you're doing throughout the campaign, and it makes sense why you'd want to kill the villain, because she has caused all this pain and suffering to poor human souls. The Khan Maker is a really well written villain, and the Hell Priests are a good goal for the Slayer to take down, and it allows you to build up anger to kill more demons, but most of the time the environment is there to tell a story, alongside the codex entries, and they're well written too. Everything in the story seems to fit well together, and the motivations of the characters are revealed, and everything makes logical sense, but later on in the game, a theory made by the community came true. Spoiler warning, the Doomslayer all along has been the Doom Guy. You see, after Doom 64, Doom Guy decided to stay in Hell to prevent any further demon invasions, and he slowly went insane from the non-stop killing. Then he was found by the Knight Sentinels and recruited, trained by them, and turned into an angry murder golem. However, the dialogue the Doom Guy says in these cutscenes is just beyond cringe. They took his lines from the Doom comic, and that just made it so bad. You can't blame the voice actors, they did a fine job, but the dialogue is horrible. When I first saw the cutscene, I was just cringing so hard I slumped back into my chair. But we know how Doom Guy's past is, and it's safe to say it's pretty goddamn cool. Doom 1, 2, and Doom 64 are all part of the new Doom mythos, but I do have a few questions. If the UAC already opened a portal to Hell in the first game, and Doom Guy shut it down in Doom 2, why would the UAC try to go back to Hell in Doom 2016? Yeah, they had to solve an energy crisis, so how did they know about Argent Energy the entire time while experimenting with Hell in the first few games? And all attempts at getting Argent failed, so the UAC fucked up with Hell twice, and people just let them continue doing shit like this. At least Doom 3 wasn't worked into the timeline. That would have been confusing as hell. I mean, it's already confusing. Did the Slayer kill the Icon of Sin in Doom 2, and they recovered its body and put it in a dormant state where it was reawakened in Doom Eternal? I still have many questions left unanswered, but Doom Eternal has many returning characters, such as Vega, who you backed up in Doom 2016, and Samuel Hayden, who you recovered in the one mission. Hell, even the dialogue from the Marauder about the Slayer is rather interesting and sparks a few questions.
Opening the portal now.
You were never one of us. You were nothing but a usurper, a false idol. My eyes have been opened. Let me help you to see, Slayer.
The Marauders are Knight Sentinels that sided with the Khan Maker. But even if I enjoyed the story, I can't help but play it off as boring. The story didn't really have any direction, your own motivation wasn't really fleshed out, and I never had a reason to go after the Hell Priests other than that they are the head of the demonic invasion. Sure, the story gives you context for what you're doing, but it never has any emotional impact on anything. The story feels bland and uninteresting. Most of the dialogue is expository coming from Samuel Hayden or Vega. The characters aren't really fleshed out, and it ends up being boring. As much as I like the turn they tried to take, the story is a little more than a concept, something that wasn't fleshed out enough, and it pains me to see it that way. It's kind of hard to flesh out Doom's concept other than a singular campaign. It also doesn't seem like we'll even need a sequel after this game, because I think the series is pretty content with where it is, but Doom has never been about the story. Doom has always been about the gameplay. The gameplay in Doom Eternal is like Doom 2016 amplified by 2. We have new guns, new enemies, and new locations to visit. Doom Eternal expands on the gameplay of Doom 2016 so much that it makes my head spin. Every battle in this game feels like a fight for your life, and that really says something. After battles in this game, I noticed I was sweaty sometimes and my heart rate was increased. Doom 2016 was pretty easy, even on ultraviolence, but now, Doom Eternal feels really intense, and I wasn't ready for the game to be as hard as it is. A simple zombie can now kill you in just a few hits, so you need to be moving around constantly. This isn't like Doom 2016's movement at all. You no longer pick a direction and run that way to avoid attacks. You're moving all over the place now with the new dash move, and there is a huge incentive on using the dash. This dash completely innovates the gameplay because now the developers had to work levels and enemy attacks around this dash move, and the dashing has to be used pretty much constantly to avoid attacks, or traverse the environment. But it's not your only movement options you have to manage. you have to manage the weapons and ammo themselves. You run out of ammo way too quickly in this game, but the developers made it this way to force you to use your other weapons, which makes sense, because you could enter a combat encounter in Doom 2016 and just use a single weapon. But now, that strategy is extremely unwise. You have to use every weapon and tool in your arsenal. All the weapons return. Some of them are named different and have a few new qualities about them. The assault rifle is now the heavy cannon, which has the same two attachments, but the scope this time around is used for sniping weak points off of enemies to make them less dangerous. The Gauss cannon is now the ballista, which is my personal favorite weapon. This weapon can now shoot a charged bolt which sticks into enemies and explodes, or the other attachment shoots a huge blade. But it's basically useless because it stops you dead in your tracks to charge it up, and there's no speed option, which makes it useless for frantic encounters. And every encounter is frantic, so it's useless, as I said. But the explode module is actually very useful. That was just a small example, but every weapon now has a more meaty sound effect. But each weapon has its own use. The chain gun is good for stun-locking enemies, the rocket launcher is good for crowd control, the shotgun is good for demon weak points with the sticky bombs. Every weapon has its own utility and great for certain situations. The super shotgun is back, now with that grappling hook that allows you to swing across the arena from a demon. Your shoulder-mounted cannon shoots grenades, ice bombs, and fire. The flame belch is used for getting armor back, because demons that are on fire can be shot to give you armor. Chainsaw gives you ammo, and Glory Kills and Crucible give you health. You have to carefully manage each of these abilities, and it's really challenging. At first, the new gameplay features might seem like a clusterfuck, but as soon as you learn how to utilize each one of them, they become core parts of the gameplay. Pickups are now a lot brighter and easier to see, and now there is an extra life system, which is actually a good thing, because when you lose health, you're instantly revived at the cost of a life, and you can keep fighting. But these just seem out of place in a Doom game, and if the goal was to make the game more punishing, the life system shouldn't have been implemented. But your arsenal is only as good as your enemies, and Doom Eternal's roster does not disappoint, bringing back the Pain Elemental, who no longer fills an entire room with lost souls, and was the bane of my existence in the classic Doom games. But now he just pukes out lost souls and chucks them at you as a ranged attack. The Arachnotron, who is more brainy and gross than ever. He reminds me more of a scorpion than a spider now. That cannon above him can be shot off, forcing him to try to melee you, and a welcome addition. Because when you glory kill him, you can shove his limbs into his eyes, which is awesome. The Archvile returns, and I don't like him. He can now summon demons and is way taller than an Archvile should be. He goes down with one Crucible Charge or BFG Blast, but he is just lame to fight. Yeah, the glory kills for him are awesome, but it's not worth fighting him because he feels unbalanced, summoning bigger demons to kill you, and it's just annoying. We also get new demons such as the Whiplash, which are snake-like creatures that are annoying to fight. And dangerous. We also get the Doom Hunter, which are your tanks, and they're really fun to fight. They're introduced as a boss first, and later become regular enemies. And that applies to another enemy I haven't mentioned yet. The Marauder. This enemy is perhaps the most unbalanced enemy in the game. The Marauder is supposed to shoot you with a shotgun at close range. He throws his axe at long range, and you're supposed to attack him at medium range. But sometimes this motherfucker doesn't even play by his own rules, and fighting with him with a controller will make pretzels out of your hands. And he also sends a ghost dog at you, and that slows you down. This is not fun. This is bullshit. He throws up a shield so you can't use rapid-fire weapons, and you need to use the super shotgun on him because using any other weapon is either slow or suicide. Fuck the Marauders. They're not fun to fight 90% of the time. He was cool the first time you see him, but every other time it's just cheap and zero fun. But alas, every enemy returns, and now the enemies that have returned have a more traditional design to them. Some of the looks on enemy faces when you're about to finish them off during a glory kill is downright hilarious. Seeing the shock on a demon's face before you murder them is just so good. There is now a new damage system for when you attack demons. Now when you shoot them, chunks start to fly off of them in bits and pieces, which is so much more satisfying than you'd think. Being able to see a demon on its last legs before you blast it to pieces is so satisfying. Every enemy in this game is enjoyable to fight, even the Archvile and Marauder at certain points, despite their flaws. Doom Eternal has a spectacle like no other game in the series. Everything is fucking gorgeous. You can really tell that the devs spent every last penny for the budget of this game going into everything. This game is just gorgeous, running at a smooth 60 frames per second on a regular Xbox One. Yes, I played Doom Eternal on the Xbox One. I'm sorry. I know I let you all down. I did notice some stuttering in some of the more crazy environments, but this game has a presentation unlike anything. The game is so colorful and the art direction is incredible. Some of these areas I just have to stare off in the distance and marvel at the scenery. It's just that good. Like, the Conmaker's Urdak is just gorgeous. And if you didn't stop to admire this, well, maybe you just suck. But everything in this game is just beautiful. The character models, the demons, sometimes I just cannot believe this game looks this amazing. The footage for you guys runs at 30 frames per second for storage reasons, but trust me, this game runs beautifully and is a technical marvel. Tip for AAA developers, lens flare does not make your game look good. Doom Eternal will look good years down the line because of its distinct style and art direction. The color scheme is just more diverse. No longer Mars bases in hell, you move through all sorts of different looking locales and places, and it can blow your goddamn mind at times. The level design in Doom Eternal is Doom 2016 evolved times 10. Every level, every arena you enter feels well crafted and in the player's favor. Every level from the first to last is a blast to play through. The first level teaches you that this game is here to brutalize you. The first level throws Arachnotrons, Cacodemons, and at least every fodder enemy possible. But the first level gives you the shotgun and 2 mods for it, the chainsaw and the assault rifle. You'll leave this level with at least the basic weapons and tools, like the shoulder cannon. In the first few levels, you're introduced to the core gameplay mechanics that the rest of the game will utilize. The second level tasks you with learning how to platform, and how platforming is a core part of the gameplay, as well as learning every arena you enter and how to traverse it effectively, giving you the dashing ability. The start of this level gives you the Flame Belt, which is used for setting demons on fire to get armor. This level introduces more common demon types like the Hell Knight and Revenant. The third level puts you in the Cultist base, the first truly long level. This level finishes off your basic abilities, giving you the Ice Bomb. This level is a sick wake-up call for casual gamers, because when you play this on Ultraviolence, you will notice very quickly that you will die, and you will die very fast. This level definitely shows you the wide open arenas and how you have to backtrack through the level, as well as giving you environmental puzzles to solve. This also puts you against one of the mini-boss enemies, the Doom Hunter. This is going to be how you have to prioritize your enemy encounters, dealing with the boss enemy and the other small demons. This effectively teaches the player what to expect in the future, and even putting you against 2 hunters at once in one arena. These beginning stages are there to teach you the basics of Doom Eternal, and they do not mess around. The next level is the one they showed off at QuakeCon last year, and the Super Gore Nest is all about giving you a center objective, where you complete the smaller objectives to get to the main one, which is a concept we'll explore later. However, the Ark Complex is the point of no return. This is a level where you need to get to Dr. Samuel Hayden, but doing that is no easy task, since you need to destroy the giant tentacles blocking the entrance, and to do that you need to use 2 big turret guns. But this level is the point where you have almost every weapon, and it's time to put learning how to use each of those weapons to good use. Because, as I stated earlier in the gameplay section, certain weapons are good against certain enemies, and this level is here to teach you that, as well as introducing the Marauder. Every level in Doom Eternal does its best to introduce new concepts, and when they are out of concepts, the game focuses the ones it has already introduced, and this works fairly well. My favorite level in the game, Urdak, is the penultimate level of Doom Eternal, and it does not disappoint. This level reminded me of Zen from Half-Life. I don't know why, maybe it's the platforming bits that have no reason to be here. Okay, so Doom Eternal has this big issue with platforming. The platforming in Doom 2016 made sense because at least you were traversing the UAC environment, and there was an in-game reason for why the environment was that messed up, but here, the platforming is just there to be platforming. Levels often have spinning blades to avoid while platforming, and it's just chill your roll, Doom Eternal. This is Doom, not Super Mario Brothers. Even if I enjoy the platforming, because I like first-person platforming, but Jesus does it bother me how nothing is ever explained why it's like this. Like, are environments designed by the enemies to let the Doomslayer travel efficiently through it? This just seems like a bit much, don't you think? But the final level is where you're trying to get to the Icon of Sin. To take him down, the final boss of this game is just beyond epic. It's a two-phase battle that will decide the fate of the world. This first phase tasks you with destroying the Icon's armor. Ha ha ha! There's that beautiful face! But that is no easy task, because the arena is going to be crawling with tons of enemies. In fact, the entire level is pushing the engine to its limits, because you fight a fuck ton of cyber demons, or tyrants, and even a marauder for good measure. This level is certainly the hardest, but you should already have mastered the game's mechanics and movement. You should know what everything does at this point. Every enemy is thrown at you in this level, and it's exhilarating. But back to the Icon of Sin. Once you take out its armor, it's on to rip through his big meaty center. You have to shoot his body parts over and over again to kill him, and it's really challenging, because there are tons of demons in these arenas and you have to worry about them as well as the Icon's attacks. This fight ends with you bestowing the Icon's cranium with your Crucible Blade. This fight was really well designed, and the entire game had fantastic level design. Even the boss arenas are well designed, with plenty of movement advantages. But now we're all waiting for that one part of the video, so here it is. Mick Gordon has made a soundtrack that just... Okay, I'm gonna do my best not to blindly praise Mick, but this music is fucking incredible. Whoever was the guy that told Mick to make Doom 2016's soundtrack less metal was told to fuck off, because Doom Eternal brings the music in hard and it never stops. Good God, is that awesome. They even hired a heavy metal choir to sing the parts with the choir, and that is just awesome. This whole soundtrack is just great. Headphones are recommended when you play this game. You'll need to get the full scope of the soundtrack, the sound effects, and every small little audio detail. It's so good. Mick Gordon has really outdone himself here, and this soundtrack is even better than the previous soundtrack. Even the title screen music is just so classic Doom. I really do think Doom Eternal is the next leap forward in game design. Doom Eternal on all levels is a fantastic game. I'm truly excited to see where id takes the series from here on out. I mean, looking at the future, it looks a little bleak for FPS games. I think from now on, every FPS game that comes out is going to be compared to Doom Eternal. And I don't know if the game is going to be overshadowed by anything anytime soon. Doom Eternal is just one of those games that I'm going to revisit years down the line and remember how awesome it was. If all of you watched this video to the end without playing Doom Eternal, then all I have to say is, what is wrong with you and why haven't you bought this game yet?